lined the walls, and the late afternoon sun filtered through floor-to-ceiling windows, casting long shadows across the polished table where my family sat. My father had been gone for 3 weeks, and now we were gathered to hear his final wishes. I'd always been the invisible daughter. While my brother Marcus got the executive training, the networking introductions, the corner office discussions, I got dismissed. Sarah's doing her own thing, Dad would say with a wave of his hand as if my work was some quaint hobby he tolerated. Marcus sat at the head of the table in Dad's usual spot. He'd claimed it the moment we walked in. My sister Jennifer was checking her phone, already bored. Mom dabbed at dry eyes with a tissue, performing grief for an audience that wasn't watching. Richard Chin, Dad's attorney for 30 years, adjusted his reading glasses. Let's begin. The preliminary items went quickly. Mom got the house in Palm Springs, the art collection, the Mercedes. Jennifer received the jewelry, the beach condo, Dad's wine collection. Each bequest came with its own story, its own memory that excluded me. Then Marcus's name. To my son Marcus, I leave the family business, Chin and Associates investment firm, along with all associated assets, accounts, and client relationships. Additionally, a cash bequest of $500,000 to ensure smooth transition of operations. Marcus couldn't contain his grin. He'd been positioning himself for this moment his entire adult life. The golden child finally crowned. He held up the certified check Richard slid across the table, making sure I could see it. $500,000, he announced unnecessarily. Plus the whole firm. Jennifer squealed. Oh my God, Marcus. That's amazing. Mom reached over to squeeze his hand. Your father would be so proud. You've earned this. I sat perfectly still, hands folded in my lap. I'd learned long ago not to react, not to give them the satisfaction of seeing hurt on my face. Richard cleared his throat. And to my daughter Sarah. Here it comes, I thought. The token gesture. The polite afterthought. I leave a cash bequest of $10,000. The silence lasted exactly 2 seconds before Marcus burst out laughing. 10,000. He waved his check in the air. Dad left you $10,000? That's pathetic, Sarah. What are you going to do with that? Buy a used car. Jennifer giggled behind her hand. Even Mom looked vaguely embarrassed for me, as if my small inheritance reflected poorly on her parenting. I mean, I guess it's better than nothing, Marcus continued, clearly enjoying himself. You can put it toward rent for that tiny apartment you're so proud of. My phone buzzed in my purse, but I ignored it. I'd been ignoring a lot of calls lately. Richard's face remained professionally neutral, but I caught something in his eyes, a flicker of anticipation. He hadn't finished reading. However, Richard continued, his voice cutting through Marcus's laughter, there is an additional provision. The room quieted. Marcus leaned back in his chair, still grinning. Richard looked directly at me. To my daughter Sarah, who built something from nothing while asking for nothing in return, I leave the entirety of my personal venture capital portfolio, including all holdings, equity positions, and investment returns accumulated over the past 15 years. My heart stopped. The portfolio. Dad's secret project, the one he'd never discussed at family dinners, the one Marcus knew nothing about because he'd been too busy managing the traditional investment firm to notice Dad's pivot into emerging technologies. Current valuation, Richard continued, pulling out a separate document, as of last Friday's market close, $847 million. The check slipped from Marcus's fingers. It drifted down to the table in slow motion, landing face up. $500,000. Suddenly it looked like Monopoly money. I'm sorry, what? Jennifer's phone clattered to the table. Richard adjusted his glasses and read directly from the will. The portfolio includes equity positions in 17 technology companies, 12 biotech firms, 8 renewable energy startups, and controlling interest in 4 venture capital funds. Sarah has been listed as the designated successor and portfolio manager for the past 8 years, though at my request, she kept this confidential from the family. 8 years. Since I was 24 years old, fresh out of business school, dismissed by my family as naive and impractical for wanting to work in tech instead of traditional finance. That's not possible, Marcus stammered. Dad would have told me. I'm the one who, I managed his money. You managed the firm's client assets, Richard corrected. This portfolio was personal, private, built with his own capital, managed in consultation with Sarah's expertise in emerging markets and technology sectors. Mom's face had gone white. 800 million. 847 million, I said quietly. It was the first time I'd spoken since entering the room. Though with the Quantum Dynamics IPO next month, estimates project the valuation will exceed 1.2 billion. All three of them stared at me as if I'd suddenly started speaking a foreign language. You knew. Marcus's voice cracked. You knew about this? I helped build it, I said. Every Sunday when you thought I was working my cute little tech job, I was meeting with Dad, analyzing companies, doing due diligence, making recommendations. He called me his secret weapon. The memory of those Sundays flooded back. The breakfast meetings at the diner near my apartment, Dad's legal pad covered in notes, his excitement when I'd identified the pattern recognition software company before it revolutionized medical diagnostics. The way he'd listened to me, really listened, in a way he never did at family dinners. This is insane, Jennifer breathed. You're saying Sarah is a billionaire? Not quite, Richard said. But close. And unlike the family firm, which requires significant operational management, the portfolio is largely passive income. The venture capital funds manage themselves through trusted partners. Sarah will receive quarterly distributions while maintaining strategic oversight. My phone buzzed again. This time I pulled it out. 3 missed calls from James Morrison, managing partner at Sterling Ventures. 2 emails from portfolio companies. 1 text from my financial advisor. Congratulations. Your father would be proud. Call me when you're ready to discuss next steps. I looked up to find Marcus staring at his check like it had personally betrayed him. There's one more thing, Richard said. He pulled out a sealed envelope. Your father left you a personal letter, Sarah. He asked that I give it to you privately, but there's one paragraph he specifically requested I read aloud. He opened the envelope, scanned down the page and read, Marcus will do well with the firm. He has the temperament for traditional wealth management and client relationships. But Sarah has vision. She sees the future while others are still calculating the past. I trust her to carry forward the legacy that matters most. Not preserving wealth but creating it. She never asked for my help, my money or my approval. She earned all 3. The words hit me like a physical force. Dad had seen me. Really seen me. All those years of being dismissed at family gatherings, he'd known exactly what I was capable of. Mom was crying now, real tears this time. I don't understand. Why didn't you tell us? Because you never asked, I said simply. When I got my first analyst job, you asked when I'd get a real career. When I made senior associate, you asked if I'd considered going back to school for something more stable. You never once asked what I actually did. Your little tech thing, Jennifer mumbled, her face flushing. We thought you were we didn't know. I was working 16-hour days analyzing market trends, building financial models, identifying companies that would reshape entire industries, I said. But it was easier for you to imagine me failing than to imagine me succeeding at something you didn't understand. Marcus finally found his voice. The firm. I got the firm. That's still worth something. The firm is worth approximately 43 million, Richard said, consulting his notes. Substantial, certainly. Your father built it over 40 years. But the portfolio Sarah helped build in 15 years is worth nearly 20 times that. The math was devastating. 20 times his inheritance. And I'd earned every dollar of it through analysis, insight and vision while they'd laughed at my hobby. There are conditions, Richard continued, pulling out another document. Sarah, your father requested that you maintain the portfolio's focus on emerging technologies and sustainable ventures. He's also established a foundation in your name, $20 million initially, to support women entrepreneurs in STEM fields. That's what I wanted to talk about, I said. I have proposals ready for the foundation's first grant cycle. You've already been planning this? Mom looked lost, like she'd woken up in someone else's life. For 2 years, I said. Dad and I discussed it extensively. He wanted to create opportunities for people like me, the ones who get dismissed, overlooked, underestimated. Marcus stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. I need air. He walked out, leaving his check on the table. Through the window I could see him pacing on the balcony, his phone pressed to his ear. Probably calling his wife or his buddies from the country club, trying to process that his little sister, the family afterthought, had just inherited a near-billion-dollar empire. Jennifer was staring at me with a mixture of awe and resentment. So what now? You're just going to be rich and powerful and leave us all behind. I've always been behind, I pointed out. You're the ones who put me there. That's not fair, Mom protested weakly. Fair. I let out a short laugh. You skipped my graduate school graduation for Marcus's promotion party. You forgot my 30th birthday because Jennifer's salon opening was the same weekend. You've spent 5 years asking when I'd settle down and get serious about life, while I was building something that will outlast all of us. Richard stood, gathering his papers. I'll leave you all to process this. Sarah, I'll need you to sign several documents, but we can schedule that for later this week. The portfolio transition will take approximately 60 days to complete. After he left, the three of us sat in silence. The late afternoon sun had shifted, leaving the room in shadows. My brother's check still lay on the table, a reminder of how quickly fortune reverses. I don't know what to say, Mom finally whispered. You could start with congratulations, I suggested. That's usually what people say when someone succeeds. We didn't know. You didn't want to know, I corrected gently. There's a difference. I tried to tell you about my work, about the companies I was analyzing, the deals I was part of. You changed the subject every time. My phone buzzed with another message. This one from Daniel Zhao, CEO of NextGen Robotics, one of our most successful portfolio companies. Heard the news. Your father was a legend. You're going to be legendary. Dinner next week to discuss the Series C. I showed Mom the message. This is what my days look like. POs, founders, innovators. People who are building the future. Dad understood that. He believed in me when none of you did. Jennifer wiped her eyes. I feel like I don't even know you. You don't, I agreed. But that was always your choice, not mine. Marcus came back inside, his face carefully composed. So I guess congratulations are in order. Thank you. The firm. I'll make it grow. I'll prove I was worth Dad's investment. I'm sure you will, I said, and I meant it. Marcus was good at what he did. Traditional wealth management, client relationships, conservative growth strategies. Just because it wasn't my path didn't mean it wasn't valuable. Will you? He hesitated. Will you stay in touch? Or are you going to disappear into your billionaire lifestyle? I considered the question carefully. These people had dismissed me, overlooked me, treated my accomplishments like participation trophies for years. Part of me wanted to walk away and never look back. But they were still my family. Flawed, short-sighted, but family. I'm not going anywhere, I said. Same apartment, same work, same life. Just with better funding for the projects I care about. But things are going to be different. Different how? Mom, about my career. No more assuming I'm struggling because I don't show off wealth. No more treating me like the family disappointment when I've been succeeding quietly this entire time. That's fair, Marcus said quietly. Jennifer nodded, still looking shell-shocked. Mom reached across the table, her hand trembling slightly. I'm sorry, Sarah. I'm so sorry we didn't see you. I took her hand. Then start seeing me now. We sat there as the sun set over the city, the skyline beginning to glow with evening lights. My phone kept buzzing. Portfolio updates, meeting requests, congratulations from colleagues Dad had introduced me to over the years. Each notification was a reminder that I'd built something real, something substantial, something that would have existed even without this inheritance. But the inheritance wasn't really about the money. It was about validation. About my father saying, in the most concrete way possible, that he'd seen my potential when no one else had bothered to look. There's one more thing, I said, pulling out my own folder of documents. I'm reorganizing my life in light of this. Making some changes. What kind of changes? Marcus asked warily. I'm stepping down from my current position to focus on the portfolio full-time. I'm also starting my own advisory firm, helping other overlooked investors and entrepreneurs get the backing they deserve. And I'm buying a proper office building downtown. An office building? Jennifer repeated. With conference rooms, co-working spaces, and subsidized rent for early-stage startups. I'm calling it the Future Founders Center. Dad's foundation will fund it. I pulled out architectural renderings I'd been working on with Dad for the past year, another secret project they'd known nothing about. The building was beautiful. modern glass and steel with collaborative spaces designed specifically for the kind of innovative thinking that had built our fortune. Mom stared at the renderings. Your father knew about this too? He helped design it, I said. The foundation, the building, the grant programs, we planned it all together. He wanted to make sure that even after he was gone, we'd keep creating opportunities for people who get overlooked. Marcus laughed suddenly, the sound almost admiring. You really were his partner, weren't you? Not just his daughter. Both, I said. I was both. As we finally stood to leave, I glanced back at the conference room one last time. The check Marcus had waved so proudly still lay on the table. $500,000. A life-changing amount of money for most people. But not for me. Not anymore. I picked it up and handed it to him. You should keep this. You earned it by doing what Dad asked, running the firm well. He took it slowly, his expression unreadable. And you earned $800 million by being brilliant. By being me, I corrected. By doing what I love even when nobody thought it mattered. Outside the law office, we stood on the sidewalk as cars rushed past. The city felt different now, full of possibility and purpose. My phone buzzed again. Another portfolio company, another opportunity, another chance to prove that Dad's faith in me was justified. Sarah, Mom called as I turned to leave. Dinner this week? Really talk. I looked at her face, at Jennifer's uncertainty, at Marcus's respect. Sunday. My place. I'll cook. You cook? Jennifer asked. I smiled. There's a lot you don't. My old sedan. I called James Morrison back. Sarah Chin, I said. Ready for the next phase. Congratulations, he replied. Your father built something great. You'll take it further. That's the plan. The city stretched before me, full of ideas, innovators, and people waiting to be believed in. Dad believed in me. Now I'd believe in them. The real inheritance wasn't money.